Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday night, and we are here for all things HPTI and all things hypnosis. I'm Scott Sandlin. Special guest,
Dan Paris.
Dan Paris, an HPTI graduate from the first cohort of HPTI. I mentioned to you guys last week, and then I think maybe even 3 weeks ago, that I wanted to get Dan in here as a goal. We were just talking before the recording started, and before I get into that, the way we have the software set up, if you are watching this live, you can see Dan and I. If you are doing the recording and you are watching the recording, there isn't much to see. It's just the website that you can see part of. And we have it set up that way to minimize bandwidth as much as possible. The video isn't really necessary for what we're going to be talking about today. It's just kind of nicer for interacting with each other. But the quality is in the audio. So if you're doing the recording of this, feel free to walk around and fold your laundry or whatever it is you're doing and just pay attention with your ears. Anyway, like I said, Dan is here, and one of the reasons I was really excited about having Dan come as a guest is because he's an HPTI graduate. But he's a very accomplished HPTI graduate, and he was very accomplished before he attended HPTI.
Thank you.
When we first were getting this whole thing started, Dan was one of the people who signed up, and I told Richard, if Dan Paris is signing up for this thing, we're doing it right, because this guy's done his homework. This guy really is a student of hypnotherapy and NLP, and he really knows his stuff. And if he says this school is worth his time, this thing's going to go well. So he was one of the first sort of benchmarks that I had for the school. And you're the reason, I believe, that the couple who became each other is in the capstone class. You're the one who gave me that book. Long time ago you gave me that book and turned me on to it. So there we go. So that's background, and what Dan is going to be talking about tonight is mainly corporate coaching, which you've been doing for how long now?
9 years. Actually 9 years and about 10 days. Yeah,
okay.
My ninth year.
So 9 years of that, and he came into HPTI with that as a plan, and we're going to talk about what you've done with the things from HPTI, what pieces fit into that, and where you've gone with it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Make sure you guys, if you don't already have some, be coming up with questions to ask so that we can discuss them. And then, we can even do some questions in the forum or on the Facebook group, things like that if you're listening to the recording. Real quick, before we get into any of that, quick announcements. Number one, if you're coming to HypnoThoughts Live, make sure you get your room reserved immediately and use our registration code. That early bird registration is going away very, very soon. So make sure you do that. The other thing that I want you guys to be aware of is upcoming classes at HPTI. I'm going to do this very quickly so we can get straight to, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. That was an amazing little button flip. There we go. I don't even know how I did that. That was fun. There's little commands that I don't know. So let me do it this way. There we go. That's much easier. So we are in June. As you can see, we have demonstration group hypnosis, anatomy and physiology going on right now. So those are really fun classes that obviously I recommend. I co-teach the anatomy physiology one. Demonstration group hypnosis I'm slightly involved with William Mitchell. I pop in here and there in that class. Neurology and psychopharmacology is maybe the class that people are happiest about and most excited about. I'll ask Dan about all 4 of these classes in a second. Last one being practice building, which is taught by me. So there's a lot of me this month, so I hope that's okay. And in that class, we're actually going to be talking about quite a bit this hour. So there we go. Before we get into anything else, Dan, as an HPTI graduate, any quick thoughts on any of those classes?
Actually, all 4 of those classes. Yeah, I think part of the reason why I'm here today and talking about coaching is because I actually find it really difficult to tell somebody, now go ahead and close your eyes. And I had to learn to be very conversational with what I do. And so part of that is, I have the background of training coming from a corporate trainer. And I consider myself to be someone who likes to do things one to many. I would rather talk to 15 people than to one person. And that's what's going on right now with William's class right there, is the power in, I think the power that I get from talking to people in groups is really important, because I could be talking to you in a class and completely having a transformational experience for the other person over there. And that's something we only get in a group setting, and that's what William's doing right there. Anatomy and physiology. I remember I was looking for a job and doing some work with a medical device company, and before I took that class, the thing that caused me hard is I didn't know the difference between anterior and posterior. And they came back to me later on and said, one of the bare minimum standards we need is you need to know anterior is, posterior is front and back. And then in anatomy and physiology, I learned so much more than that.
Sure. And by the way, we've reshot that class since you took it.
Really?
Yeah.
And it was good when you took it.
Yeah, we made it more engaging since then.
Okay, that would be a nice addition to it. And now we're getting into two of the other June classes, neurology and psychopharmacology.
Both of the next two, by the way, start in 2 weeks, so you still have time to sign up for those if you guys want them. Go ahead.
Neurology and psychopharmacology, I think, when you talked about me deciding to do the whole curriculum, that's the one that sold me. That's the one that I'm like, oh my goodness, you're kidding me. And it really delivered just across the board with what Brennan and Katie have put together. It not only is it a lot of information, it's so digestible. I mean, we're sitting there talking about the way neurons and synapses work together, and we're going really deep with, and I'm getting every bit of it.
Yeah.
And I remember Juan took that class driving across country, right? Mm-hmm. Krista would know that information. And I actually, I don't know if you know this, but we were coming back from a road trip, maybe the Grand Canyon, and we had to stop on the way home, and I had to find like a McDonald's with a Wi-Fi connection. It was so sketchy, and I took the final exam for that on the road, and it was so, I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm sitting here and all this stuff, even the most stressful conditions possible, and I'm getting it and I'm remembering it. It's really one of the great classes.
And I remember, by the way, Richard and I definitely know that story because we use that story when students come up with excuses on why they can't get it done.
Yeah, right.
We'll say, we had a student moving across the country,
yes,
taking psychopharmacology. We have another student who took the same class, took the final exam in a parking lot in his car during a family vacation.
Left my son and wife in the car while I went inside on the way home from a trip. So
right.
You know how that is. And boy, that class is I think, if I had to say one class that's my favorite, I will now add Melissa Tears's kind of advanced NLP tied with that for sure. My two favorite classes. And then the practice building is, I think part of the reason why I'm here today is you've taught me so much about building business in a humanistic, nice way where you're not messing people over, and the things that you've done in the referral language that you use and the things that you made me do to define my business plan and get really clear. That happened in that class, and I think that's part of the reason why I was able to secure the business I have now.
Cool. And that's something we're going to talk about more as we get into what your project was and why it was different and how that applies to where you are now.
Sure.
But let's start talking about, I think that's enough of logistics. If any of you guys have any questions about upcoming classes or HypnoThoughts Live, say so real fast or type them real fast, because I want to move past that as quickly as possible so we can get into more with Dan. I'm just going to start talking and assume that none of you guys have any. Also, use the discussion forum. That's a great place to put stuff. We're running out of topics for Tuesday night classes. We had a great list from Nancy, and we burned through those. So we've got a couple left on the list from me, but let's get more discussion topics in there. Anyway, you are a business coach.
Yes.
Like you said, 9 years with the company and in the sort of arena you've been in now. You've got a background working with people like Jamie Smart.
That's right.
And You know, and interestingly, that you and Michael Watson didn't know each other that well before HPTI, considering both of you had Jamie Smart, who's a great NLP, or was a great NLP instructor, now just a great NLP thinker. Yeah. You guys had him in common. So you have a strong pedigree in terms of NLP thinking and NLP work. Yeah. Where are you now, and what are you up to?
One more note on Michael Watson. Actually, when I first saw Michael, had no connection with Jamie at all. Michael was talking about you doing the kinesthetic switch on some YouTube video.
It was the fractionation.
The fractionation.
Yeah, that's the video he talks about me.
And so my first knowledge of Michael was him talking about Scott, and then I found out he had the connection to Jamie. So where am I now? So I think I'm a little different than a lot of people. I'm not the same level of entrepreneur that you are. I keep a day job that I do my NLP coaching in, and that's just something that I feel like it's been important for me to have the one income in the family that's been stable. So it's a training job, it's a coaching job, and I use neuro-linguistic programming and techniques every day with those clients.
And those clients are?
Those clients are real estate agents. They are people who pay a monthly fee to my company, and I get to teach them language patterns, which is really cool. So we do business development coaching and things like that. But the thing that comes with business coaching is people bring themselves to the table. So they have to negotiate with their clients, or they have to prospect, and they got to either knock on doors or call people that they're in a relationship with, and they feel shy about doing that. And so I will use very specific techniques that I learned in HPTI to help them get over anxiety or get over a fear, and I do it as conversationally as I can.
Right.
Yeah. And so that is my job. And I'll do things like I'll do webcasts and trainings all the time, but my thing that I'm known for within this company are teaching language patterns, something that everyone on this call can probably do. I got Jamie Smart's cards out the first time I learned language patterns, and people want to hear about that all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to something we talk about. Richard Nongard talks about this a lot in other classes that we have, is there's the stuff that's really exciting and that hypnotists really like, sort of the inside baseball stuff that we like to talk about at conferences. And then there's the stuff that is, just bang for the buck. Mm-hmm. Clients love it, fundamentals that pay off. Yeah. And, you're talking about the NLP language pattern equivalent to that.
Right. Really easy things like having people focus on what they want rather than they don't want. How to use the word "but" in a sentence in a way that's going to be effective with your clients. I've made a career off the butt flip after one language pattern, and every time I talk about it, and every time I talk about using negation, I just get phone calls for 2 weeks about, Dan, tell me more about that. And so that's one level of what I'm doing, is I maintain my day job, and I've just been very lucky to integrate NLP specifically, consciously into what I do there in my coaching.
Okay, and so that's the day job. What's the rest of it? So you're doing business coaching for real estate agents and real estate entrepreneurs.
That's right.
And what?
And as a result of doing what I've been doing in HPTI, I've been going out and looking for ways to just really easily augment my income with stuff that I already know, things that everyone on this list is going out and doing and meeting people, and you may do a hypnotherapy session, and I'm doing a corporate coaching session is what I'm doing.
So let's talk about this corporate coaching, because this is exciting.
This really is exciting.
We had what's her name? Judy. Sorry, Judy. We had Judy on here 2 months ago. And she's talking about the corporate work she's doing. Yeah. She's got companies, and she's working with the employees to stop smoking.
Oh, cool.
You're doing something completely different.
I am doing something different. So I've got these executives who've come up to me, and they say, let's back up a little bit to what I did first when I did there. So I provided a sales training for them.
And this is a company that's publicly traded, so we're not supposed to say the name.
That's right.
So we're going to be doing a lot of pronouns here.
That's why it's a very specific company that they're publicly traded, and I have agreements with them to not disclose too much of the relationship that I've got with them.
But we can say that they're international, multi-billion-dollar-a-year company.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Fortune, what? I certainly top 50, I would think.
I would imagine, yeah.
I would imagine.
I mean, they're a big company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
everyone on the call has definitely heard of this company
everyone.
and given them money.
No matter where you are. Yes,
yeah.
you have. So they are responsible for building buildings and selling things. And so they asked me to come in and do some language training on increasing sales skills. Really easy things, very much in line with what I currently do. And it was fantastic. It was.
How many people?
In that room on that day, about 26, I would say, really close to 26. And this is about just over a year ago that I did this. And the exciting part about it is, well, they paid me a lot of money for 4 hours worth of work. Well, on the surface, this is important for people to know. They think they paid me this money for 4 hours worth of work, but the truth is I probably put in 40 or 50 hours designing the work and creating the visuals and everything beforehand.
Yeah.
So my entryway into what I'm doing now was actually a training for them. So everybody can increase the skills that they have, and everyone can walk away doing something that they weren't doing before. It was great. And from that, they asked me if I would do some executive coaching for people who are at director level and around that level. They said, will you come in? And we have these things that we want them to do. So the company's got very specific things. We want person A to increase this behavior, and we want person B to increase this behavior.
And these are leadership behaviors, these are sales behaviors, these are
leadership behaviors.
Okay.
And in some ways, they're just real life human being behaviors.
Okay.
You know, so don't be intimidated by, you know, using big words like leadership. Some of these people just have to work well and play nice with others. That the way that most people here might think, well, that's, you know, we're in the human development industry. Well, some people just need to play nice with others. And so some of the work that I'm doing with them is just really, really simple.
Okay.
And getting some really, you know, good effects for them. There's something I wanted to say about that. You know, I think if you have a little bit of experience in business, you are really qualified to at least do some entry-level work on business coaching to help people with their soft skills. Maybe that's easy for me because I've got a, you know, training background and I've been in training for 14 years. And maybe I'm saying that because of that reason. But I think that coaching is a big buzzword right now. If you go online and look for jobs, in the industry that I'm in, which is learning and development, the word coaching is in every request that you're going to see. People want it. And coaching is shorthand for, you know, even who's the woman who you taught me about the forms that she uses?
Zolita Grant.
Zolita Grant, right? So she will do something now called hypno coaching.
Correct.
Is what she does. So I consider what I'm doing to be kind of a hypnotic version of coaching. And in their business, I drive to their location. I meet with these 3 people live one time a month, and then I'll have a 30-minute phone call with them. So I have about 6 touches a month with this company.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're paying you.
They are paying me.
And they're a multi-billion-dollar company, so they can pay you whatever they want.
I'm, you know, you gave me some coaching on talking money because I kind of charge out of my own pocket sometimes. And so this company came to me and said, Dan, what would you charge for this? And I'm like, that's a really good question. I think I called Scott on the phone. I'm like, Scott, what do I charge for this? And I remember that I was like, gosh, if they would pay me $1,000 or $1,500 to that, I'd be really happy with that. That would be, you know, I get to do what I love to do, spend the afternoon doing that, and, you know, and basically pay for everything I spent on HPTI for the whole year in an afternoon. I called you on the phone, and Scott changed my thinking to much bigger numbers. Scott was like, okay, well, come up with 3 plans for him. Come up with the 4-hour plan, come up with the 4-hour plan with follow-up and with coaching. And he said, you know, I could see you going anywhere from, I think you said like $2,500 or $3,000 up to $60,000. And that immediately changed my thinking about, it became really easy to ask for $1,500 when someone talks to you about Dan, really, you do 60 grand here.
Right.
And so we eventually had our negotiations, and I feel comfortable letting people know that they gave me $3,000 for an afternoon's worth of work before we even talked about doing coaching later on. And I took a picture of the check. I'm really pleased that, I paid for much more than HPTI would. Sure, that check. It's a real high water moment for me in my career because I had to create that myself. Like, I have my day work, which I could show up and do that, but this is like something that I created that was additional, that was not expected. And so now all the work I'm layering on is at a higher level. Yeah. It's really exciting.
And that's the thing is that was your get in the door. You got paid to get in the door.
Exactly.
And so now you're doing, they obviously liked it.
Yes.
And we'll get into what it was.
Sure. Sure.
They liked it, and so they're continuing working with you on other stuff.
Yeah.
And you'll figure out some way to be able to use them in some sort of resume and build with other companies and relationships and all that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It is awesome. It's really fun work.
So let's talk about what piece, well, before we do, are there any questions you guys have about the parts we've talked about so far? Any questions for Dan, or should we keep going? Short shot clock.
Mm-hmm. I do love questions.
All right, no questions yet. You guys, we've got 20 minutes left of class. Keep going. All right, Paul, we'll keep going. So let's talk about the pieces you're doing first in that initial afternoon and now with these other guys. Yeah. And let's talk about, for them, what can they learn so that they can do that from HPTI and outside of HPTI? What do they need to know about?
The two things that were really helpful for me were Michael Watson's NLP class, and that really played itself out. So what I taught them, why don't I tell you what I taught them for that afternoon, is they wanted to increase their sales of the number of things that they were selling, and these are high dollar item things that they're selling. They're asking their clients to spend about $1.3 million to create something that didn't exist right there. So there's a lot of money on the table, and they wanted to increase the number of sales that they were making. And so I said, well, I can do that. I do that with my current real estate clients, and what I can easily do is I can teach language patterns. And I went to Michael Watson, and I said, hey, Michael, because they paid me this money to do that, and I reinvested money back, and I negotiated with Michael, and he sold me salad cards. Are you guys familiar with the Jamie Smart's salad cards? He's got the purple influence deck, and he's got a coaching deck, which is the blue deck and all those things. Well, that's what I bought. That was my curriculum. I bought those cards, right, sold on Amazon. I bought those cards, and I structured them in such a way for the purple deck, which is the influence language, the sales language, and I just showed them how to use better words than they were. They're all great salespeople. They're selling $1 million product to their client every day. You don't pay $1 million. You pay a couple bucks for what you do for them, but they pay $1.3 million, and we moved the needle very quickly with little things.
One of the things that is really cool, just an example of the little thing, was breaking ground versus opening.
Yeah.
We can kind of talk about that a little bit. And you told me about this, and then it was really cool. He was, you told us.
Yeah. So they wanted to build more buildings is what they wanted to do. So I originally called the class Build More is what it is. And because that was, they basically gave me the embedded commands of what they wanted to do. They wanted their sales team to be able to build more buildings. And so I did this whole presentation, spent probably about a 56 slide PowerPoint, and everything was, teaching them to use embedded commands as I'm using the embedded command on them, build more, over and over, build more. And I had a real reflective moment where I was sitting there, and I'm like, it's really not very inspiring to build something. And I had this thought that I was like, what does it look like when something's under construction? Because that's what I'm asking them to do is build something. They're asking their clients to build a building. And I went and I get some pictures off the internet of these buildings being constructed. And I was like, man, I wouldn't want to do that either. I'm like, there's tractors and there's ground being leveled and there's slabs being poured and I'm like, well, if that's the image I'm giving to my client, I'd have resistance to that as well. And I said, so what's beyond that? What's beyond building? And it was open is what it was. And so on a fly, without telling them, I basically changed most of the seminar to open more rather than build more. But I kind of kept everything build. And then at the end, I said, okay, guys, here's the thing. You're asking your clients to build more. And here's what building looks like. I showed them picture after picture of their product being built. And I said, it kind of feels like a headache to me. It kind of feels stressful. It kind of feels like permits and all that. And I said, but look at these pictures of your celebrations, your opening. And I just showed them pictures of them opening more and more buildings, opening. And that really clicked with them.
And what's cool is, I think it was the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. Yes.
A couple months later, a month later.
Yeah.
In the Wall Street Journal, they started using, just unintentionally, their posts in the Wall Street Journal, the articles about them in the Wall Street Journal, stopped using the word building and started using the word opening. Their verbs about what they were doing changed because of what you did. Yeah. And I think that's just such a perfect example of, one, the value you just provided for that company. You changed the way they internally and externally communicate what they're doing. Which is what I do with clients on a one-on-one basis. So when you think about this for an HPTI student, whether it's me talking to a person who wants to stop biting their nails, or go to the gym more, or it's you talking to 14 development coordinator or director of new operations or whatever they are,
changing a behavior.
It's changing a behavior and changing the way they look at the goal. It's not about the work, it's about the results. Right. And that's exactly what you reframed for those people. A fairly fundamental thing to do, but done really well, it's a big deal. Yeah. So that's what you were doing. Mm-hmm. Let's start with just that. What do they need? I mean, we just kind of said it's kind of fundamental stuff. What do they need if they want to do just that piece? And then we'll go to the other piece.
You have to find some kind of curriculum that you want to offer to people in their business. And that could be everything from going into a human resources department and offering a lunch seminar on quitting smoking. Or it could be talking to their sales team on increasing productivity.
We're back.
We're still here.
I don't know if you lost us for a second. We lost you for a second.
So I think that I think number one, design a curriculum. Know what it is that you can do for people. And I think that's how a lot of this unfolded, is you and I were talking, and I'm like, here's what I am good at. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I can do. Here's where I add value. And then you just offer that, like William Mitchell's doing. You offer it to a group of people.
Okay.
I don't even have a problem, offering free groups of training to people. I'll talk to embedded commands to anybody who wants to. So I think you have to know what you want to teach, what you're good at,
So let's bring that back to HPTI in terms of, because we wanted to talk about this, the practice building class and your project in that class and all the stuff that went on there.
What is my project in that class?
That project you almost didn't do. You almost failed that class.
I almost failed that class.
It's the only thing you didn't do really, really well at HPTI, and I had to talk you off a bridge for this class.
Talk me off a bridge. What did my project end up being? Do you recall?
Your project ended up being how I can quit my day job, and what the math would be on quitting my day job. Yeah, and or some variation there. Yeah. Because the final project for the business class, the practice building class, is design your private practice. Yeah. And do all the work to come up with a business plan for running a private practice. And Dan called me. He said, I have a real problem. I don't want a private practice. Right. And, HPTI is great for me. I'm learning things. It's cool, even though I know I don't want to be a clinician. Right. But I'm at a crossroads here. This class doesn't work for me. Do I have to fail this class? What can we do?
I didn't want to lie. Right. I didn't want to make something that wasn't accurate.
Yeah, and you didn't want to spend that work on something that wasn't going to be useful or honest. Right. So you and I spent a little while on the phone talking through that project. And And you came up with, and we just kept coming back to, what do you want to do? And you kept coming back to this idea of, I don't know if I want to leave this day job. I want to make sure that I get my day job into place so I can do contract work as well.
And that is where I am with them. They don't know it, so don't tell them. But I mean, it's moving to the point where I get to approach them and off. They don't want me to go. And I get to go back to them and say, well, now I want to contract with you. I want to do the things for you that I'm currently doing, but there's no reason to be, behind a desk for 40 hours just to do 40 hours when the value I create is probably done in, the best value I create 10 or 12 hours a week for them. So building my practice as I, maintain that relationship is really important to me. I mean, I have a lot of work from the things that I'm doing. I'm taking vacation time from my current job to fulfill some of the commitments that I'm doing because I've got that much of it going on.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those things. So the things that you're doing now, what are these things that require you to take vacation?
Well, the coaching that I'm doing for that organization, where I will, I'll drive in. This is something that we ought to have a conversation about. Right now, I'm driving in and spending about an hour to 90 minutes with each of these people once a month, and I'm doing a follow-up session on the telephone, which is surprisingly effective, just to be on the telephone working with them. And so there's another 30 minutes. So I've got about 2 hours per person into each one of those. And so because I'm in a month, and what I'm doing is I'm driving into their office on that day. So I'm scheduling everybody on the same day and taking one day off. So I'm not using all my vacation time. That's what I mean by that.
Sure.
But what I'm finding is I'm really effective on the telephone, and I'm starting to think I don't know how much value it is to actually even drive in and spend the time with them, because we're getting so much done even on the telephone. But then what I say to myself is, and does that mean I have to change my rates? And it's like they're getting the value is what they're getting. So, yeah.
That's so cool. So
Isn't it cool?
It is. It's really, really cool. And you've been with that. You've been doing contract work with that big company for a year.
Yeah, I think it's about a year, maybe a little bit more now.
And simple things. The internal communication they're having, using things. Explain the butt flip to these people.
Okay.
This is such a simple, good way to reverse. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. So the butt flip is really cool language pattern. A lot of times when people are having, Scott, you taught me about towards motivation and away from motivation. People will say, I'll use a real estate example. People will walk into a house and they'll say, I really love this house, but I can't afford it. Right? It's pretty typical. Someone will say, I want this, but I can't have it. I have to do this, but I have to do that. It's very typical. So what I've caught on to, and with you teaching me about, people have their towards in a way, I'll just put the second thing, the more important thing I want to lead them to last. So if they said, I love this house, but I don't think I can afford it, I teach my clients to say, so you don't really think you can afford it, but you love this house. You slow down and you just leave them and hand it back to them with, but you love this house. And I'm shocked at how many times people just go, yeah, I really do. I really do want this. And it's one little language pattern. Put the best thing last.
So I really want to stop smoking, but I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
So
you don't know if you can, but you really want to quit smoking. You really want to stop smoking. Tell me more about that.
Or I really want to lose weight,
mm-hmm.
but I'm afraid of going to the gym.
Okay, so now I'll do a dirty butt flip. There's a clean butt flip and a dirty butt flip. The clean butt flip is use clean language and use their exact words, which is what I've been demonstrating. The dirty butt flip is maybe I would say, so you had been afraid of going to the gym, but you really want to lose weight. So I'll actually do a little bit of work in there with.
So you switched the verb tense in there.
In that case, had been afraid, or it seems like, or If someone says, I can't afford this house, I'll say, so you think you can afford, oh, so you think you can't afford this house, or you believe you can't, and that would be a dirty version of that. And even just teaching that, going into a corporation and teaching that, their eyes go wide open and they go, wow. It's like they don't know this.
And all you're doing is overcoming resistance.
Exactly.
And that's just a simple nuts and bolts. Gar says, last time I did butt flip, I hurt my back. Yeah, do a different kind of butt. You should do the other kind of butt flip.
You're doing dirty butt flip. Do a clean butt flip.
And then it sounds like an NLP technique, very NLP based. And that's really where your bread and butter is, right?
Yeah, I do as much as I can conversationally. And which can be detrimental for me because it seems like, you probably get this too, it sounds like you're just having a conversation, but you're moving these little widgets in their mind to where they just feel good when you're done. Right. And they just change their behavior, but they don't really know why.
And, for me, just, in this office, a lot of times I'll know I'm done. I've moved the things, I did all the work, I did all the conversational work, and I know they're done. Mm-hmm. And then I have to do hypnosis as a formality because that's what they think they need. Yep. They think they're coming for hypnosis, but they're really coming for is change. So we've got the change, but now I've got to do the hypnosis so they can tell their spouse, I really did go to a hypnotist, and he's not a con artist or whatever. You don't have to do that.
I don't have to do that, but I do find myself giving them assignments like Erickson.
Okay.
Go do this and come back and tell me what you notice as a result of making that change. So that's they're getting assignments from me.
And now, is that a ritual? Is that to ratify? What is that?
Yeah, and that is one of my favorite quotes from HPTI. Write this down. Richard Nongard says that hypnosis or a hypnotic induction is the ritual that ratifies the change which has already occurred. Hypnosis, what we do, and the NLP techniques is the ritual that ratifies the change which has already occurred. That's my favorite definition from HPTI. And so what I'm doing is I'm giving them things to go out and it's great because they're actually hearing from CFOs of the company that this person has made a change. The feedback is getting there. So I'm telling them what to notice. I'm future pacing. And I'm saying, so now that you have this insight or awareness that you came to during our conversation, their insight, their awareness, not mine, what you're going to do is you're going to notice this. And I'll ask them specifically for what do you see, what do you hear, what do you feel. I won't let it just be kind of in their mind as a nominalization. I want them to go get proof that this change has occurred. And that's been happening. They're coming back and they're saying, I mean, the CFO of this company is reporting to executive vice presidents that I have seen this behavior change. And they're all surprised.
So you're working with executive vice presidents. You're working with you're talking with the CFO. You're doing these things.
I'm talking with the executive VPs and I'm working with a lot of their directors. And what the executive VPs don't know is I'm probably doing my best work with them.
Okay.
But without working with them at all.
Sure.
Sure. Whenever anyone says this person is having this issue, it's also kind of our issue as well. So we're doing some very
so you're doing couples therapy?
I'm doing couples therapy.
You're doing the couple who became each other's stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is absolutely couples therapy within a business. I mean, it is a relationship where everyone wants to make progress. I'm helping people get promoted. I'm helping people, in some cases, save their jobs, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's harder than, I was talking to you, Scott, when I walked in the door. I said, the thing that's hard about this work is they're being assigned to me. These are not people
I wanted to bring this up. This is a great point.
They're not knocking on the door and saying, hey, Dan, I really need some help. My clients in my day job, they are. But in the corporate coaching, the really different dynamic is they're like, well, I guess I got to be here. It's kind of like Office Space where the two Bobs, come in, and so I've really got to knock down those barriers of like, yeah, I know it's crazy that they would say this about you. Hey, what do you want to have happen? In the first session, there's a lot of like really getting to what is it that you really want to accomplish. It's not easy, actually.
No, and that's you having to get past resistance. Mm-hmm. And then you can even say to them, do you remember 2 months ago or last month, the day I came in here, how much resistance you had towards me? Do you think your clients or customers are ever going to have as much resistance to you as you had to me? And look at our relationship now. And so that's, I mean, you're demonstrating what they have to be able to do.
That's right.
So you're,
in the face of them not wanting to be there, whatever I have to do,
right,
cajole, confront, and I had to confront one of these clients and say, no, we're kind of a jerk when I met you the first time. That actually can, and people who know me on here, some of you know me. I'm not a big confrontation guy.
No.
I had to be, and I knew I had to be, and so I was like, okay, well, here's my experience of you, and boy, that paid off big time.
Yeah. Gar asked, do you do mostly teaching or planning through NLP exercises on the phone? Do you plan it all ahead of time, or is it impromptu? What's your structure?
Okay, so this is for my day job, really, right here. And my company that I work for, I'll tell you, the company I work for is called By Referral Only. We're a small boutique training outfit for real estate agents. And we have a curriculum that is, marketing materials and language patterns. And I teach the language patterns for that. So I will do everything I can to kind of make sure that the solution they need is language-based. If they need a solution that's web-based, I'll give them to someone else. But we are funneling people to me at my company because they want to get good with their presentation skills, or their overcoming resistance skills, or negotiating skills, or even getting referrals, which is what the company does. So that, Gar, is kind of there for me, and I do that job completely 100% on the telephone, which is why I'm so comfortable coaching on the phone. I pick up a phone and I can have a conversation with anyone on the other end of it.
And that doesn't take any prep at this point?
At this point, I do no prep for that at all. It's like, what's your problem? What do you want to have happen? And then I will do some sort of intervention that will let them blame their fear on something else, at not the identity level.
Right.
Because they'll say, I'm afraid, and I'll make sure that it's their environment that has the fear in it, or a behavior, not them. So that's all. That's kind of all built. That now is an unconscious competence that I have, largely in part to the Michael Watson NLP course. Michael took years and years worth of my own independent NLP training and went and put it together and said, there it is, Dan. I mean, the growth that I had from Michael Watson's class it took so many things, and just, I don't even know why I do it anymore. And so there's no prep time. I don't have to think about that anymore. I'm very impromptu, and I actually fight against planning too much so I can be present and in the moment with who I'm talking to.
Okay. And then with these sessions you're driving up and meeting them for an hour and a half, how planned are those?
The first one wasn't very planned at all, because I just wanted to find out, so the first I might spend 2 hours with them, the first one, and just find out what do you want to change, what's important to you. I give them a quick reframe, and I give them control of the behavior that their executive VP wants them to change with. And then I'll give them an assignment that I invented on the spot for almost everyone I'm working with. But then I get more structured because I'll have them report back, where are you right now? So since we met last time, what has your experience been? This is the slow level of going to, look, this isn't my problem, this isn't me, this is someone else who wants me to do this, to they're taking responsibility. And so my verb tense shifts are happening over months rather than a day or a week.
And you have to play the cards differently, because it really is a different situation, because they don't want to be there at first.
At first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Does that answer your question, Gar?
And like Scott said, it is much more like working with court-ordered people. It's their job to show up at first, whether they see any potential value in it or not.
And I should say this, these people that I'm coaching, they are not the problems of the organization. So if you had in your mind that these are people who the organization wants to get rid of, these are people the organization wants to promote. These are people making six-figure salaries that are trying to make, 200,000 instead of 140,000. And yet they still show up with these same things, which is like, no, that's not me.
Right.
I'm good at what I do. But what they're doing is they're overusing a skill. Like being very analytical and very good with numbers and just being really crappy with a young colleague who is doing your job that you did 5 years ago, and you think you could push a button and get that result when you can't, It's
Right.
people skills.
It's people skills.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're out of time. Do you guys have any questions? Last chance on questions. We were already a couple minutes over, but this has been fun, so we've been just doing it. Last chance, any questions you guys have? Recommend any books. He always has good books.
This is my thing. Say a little more about that, Guard. Like a book on what topic? For coaching, using NLP in coaching, my new favorite book is Melissa Tiers' new book that she just published last month, which is it Coaching with the Brain in Mind?
Coaching with the Brain in Mind.
Coaching with the Brain in Mind.
I have a copy of it. It's at home, though. I was going to pull it out.
That is purposefully being conversational with your NLP. I mean, she's done a lot of work with John Overdorf, who his mission seems to be very similar to mine. To how much of this can you do as a conversation where nobody knows there's a thing even happening. And that book, I'll recommend it to everybody right now. If you like coaching and being conversational.
And that book is actually, if you take Melissa's class through HPTI, that is going to be the new textbook for the class.
And it should be.
It should be. She created the class with that while writing that book.
Yeah. And she's such a clear thinker.
Yeah.
A clear presenter.
Yeah, a wonderful presenter. Cool. I always ask Dan what he's reading every time we see each other because he's always got a really good book on hypnosis, NLP, or conversational processing. And it's just something that he's really devoted himself to.
I think I should say this real quick. I love hypnosis. I'm talking a lot about wanting to be conversational. I had to learn hypnosis through HPTI to realize what I was doing conversationally. I had to, and actually I think the order for me was this. Hypnosis explained NLP to me, which it became the unconscious competence of that because I was trying to unravel what NLP was, and then Scott said, "Oh, close your eyes," and you count back from 10 to 1, and you relax the mind and you relax the body, and then I could understand NLP. So I came to hypnosis. I came to HPTI to be a better NLP practitioner.
Yeah, cool. So there we go. If you guys do come up with any questions, or anybody who's listening to this recording, if you come up with any questions, put them in the HPTI chat room. We have in the Hypnosis 100 group. Put them in the Facebook group for HPTI. Put them on either place, or just post them to HypnoThoughts. We're all there as well. So, but if you have questions, ask them, and we will see you guys here in a week. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And